Good morning. Our hand today is Ace Queen. Full ring, villain 8, limps. I already have his range here. I think that's probably a pretty decent range. He's playing 42-4. Looking at his pre-flop stats, he limps awful lot. Limp first in 44%, 35, 29, 50. He's in the cutoff. He's only limped 2 out of 7, but from the cutoff, he's only played 4 out of 14. So if he didn't limp, he just called a raise. I think this player is going to be playing pretty loose overall. Trying to see a lot of flops, probably hoping to hit them. So I think that's going to be my range or his range. And then I raise the 6 big blinds, so I try to ISO raise, and I think that's pretty good. I think the sizing's pretty good. It applies pressure on both these players. Obviously, this player doesn't look like he calls a whole lot, only calls 2 bets 9% of the time, but big blind has called 24. Uh, uh, 24 big blinds, and I want to make sure he's not very deep. If he shoves over the top, I could probably just get rid of it because his 3-bet stat's pretty tight. But I don't want to make him. I don't want him to come along. I want to isolate villain 8. So I like the size, and then villain 8 calls. Now, does villain 8 change? Oh, what range am I raising with? I'm raising my button raise first in range. This guy's loose. I'm not going to restrict my range at all. I'm sure my range is going to be ahead of his range. So, and I want to play these hands against him. So what does villain do? Does he restrict his range just because I raise? I don't think so. He really hasn't been exposed to too many of these. When you say limp and called, it's 3 out of 4 when he's early position, 3 out of 4 when he's mid position. He's probably calling out of position in this place. So I don't think he really likes to fold. I'm going to keep this entire range because I'm not even sure what kind of range to what kind of hands to eliminate. I think in this case he's probably playing because he wants it. He wants to see the flop, so he's going to pay to see the flop. The flop comes out Ace Queen 2 with 2 clubs, and villain 8 leads. He leads for about 2/3, I believe, maybe 3/4. So yeah, it's about 2/3. About 2/3. His donk is 40%. Donks flop 40% of the time. So I think he is donking with a very wide range of hands. I don't even think he's donking with these premium hands. I think he's donking with hands like this. Get rid of these good hands. I think he's donking with like ace mid to low kicker. He's trying to see where he is on the hand. Probably like pocket kings. Maybe even the middle pairs that he's betting just to see if he's ahead. Not sure if he would bet these like jacks to threes. This is such a good favorable flop to my raising range that I don't think it makes any sense for him to be betting any more of that. I don't think he would bet like flush draws. And maybe he does, but I think he probably caught a pair. And for the 40%, you could say, well, he's only betting 20.9%. Where's the other 20%? I think we have to think in terms of frequency of the flops. He has such a wide range that it's likely that he's going to catch a pair, at least top pair, or at least top or middle pair most of the time. So I kind of feel like, yeah, he is going to be betting that high, even though the pair represents a small percentage of his ranges. We could add, like pocket pair below the second card to get us closer, maybe like just all pair, but I think this is pretty typical of a donking range. Also, remember this is 101 hands, and for the donking, he's led 4 out of 10. So, if it was, if he did one less donking, it's 30%. So he leads. Now what do we do? I think so. I guess our question here is: should we raise or should we call? I think folds out of the question. I think against this player's pretty passive, at least in terms of pre-flop raises. What does he do on the flops? he bets. I mean, he's aggressive because he's donking. So you can see on the flop he donks 40%. On the turn he's donked 100%. But then he slows down on the river. So I do think he's going to be a bit aggressive. And I think if he's aggressive, I can call, and he's probably betting again. If I bet, do I think he's gonna? What do I think he's gonna call? I'd like to think he's probably gonna give up his middle pair and the pocket pair below the top card, and probably call with aces. If that turn does not bring a club, then I think it gives him reason to bet again, because I might be betting with a flush draw. So I think we can set it up to be betting our top pair. I'm not even sure I would raise all of our top pair. I kind of think we could call with those. Oops. Yeah, I think we can call with those. I think two pair, and that's ace 10, ace jack, we're going to raise because I think we've got a better kicker. But I think all the rest we're just going to call. I think we're going to be calling, like kings. We're going to be calling queens. I think we're going to be folding pocket pair below the second card, bottom pair. And then for balance, I do think we're going to be betting our flush draws. And I think we can bet our gut shots too. Kind of keep a little bit of balance. I think 2-card backdoor flush draws are probably going to just call. So I think that's what we're going to be used as like a raising range. Now, how much do we raise? I would say we raise. We don't want to blow them out. So if we raise, maybe not full pot. Full pot would be maybe like 38 big blinds. 38 big blinds. So maybe half pot might be a little too small. Maybe a little bit more than half pot. I raised to 24. I think it was kind of an even number. I think that's okay. It's strong enough to represent, hey, we've got some hand or we have some draw, but it's not blowing him out. I think if we raise pot, it could give him reason to fold a lot of his hands. Whereas here, he might think, well, maybe he does have that flush draw. Maybe I'll call with a weaker hand. So he does call. So does he change what he calls with? I think so. I think he changes. I think he only calls now with his aces. All right, so that's our ranges. So villain actually has a much smaller range at this point, basically ace X with a weak kicker. So we're at 9.45%. His combos are 48 combos. My pre-flop range is much wider, but note it's still ahead. So I've got 35% combos, or 35% form, 119 combos. Oops. Darn it. I got the wrong ones. So let me write these numbers in. And then what I think I'm going to do is just pause it and get these switched. All right. So I've got everything updated. Now we see a turn card of a 7 of diamonds. So 7 of diamonds. I do figure I'm ahead. I think that's a great card for me. Because, or at least great card for my actual hand. Probably not for my range. You can see once that 7 comes out, it kind of devastates my range. I miss my flushes. It doesn't help my flush draws. Doesn't help any of my straights or the gut shots. Doesn't put any high card to make it seem like I've hit that. So this is kind of what I would consider neutral to a bad card. Neutral in that if I'm ahead, I'm probably still ahead. But if I'm behind, this doesn't help me. I don't think it's going to add much to it. And actually, I think a more neutral card would be like a 3 or a 4, not a 7. because I think villain's gonna have a lot of those ace littles, and all any of those littles we're gonna have to be scared about. So now he leads, and he leads for a really small size. And at this point, could he be betting a top pair hand? Not really. I kind of suspect that once he leads, he's betting top. He's betting two pair. It just doesn't make sense for him to bet. Now we could say top pair is going to be betting maybe 50% of the time he'll bet top pair. Uh, okay, there we go. 55%. Oh, sorry, 50%. We'll do 50%. He bets top pair, but all the rest are two pair. And when he leads now, I think that's going to be our most concerning part of it. So once he leads, I think we're going to have to really consider what's going on. So I think we call our flush draw. We're getting the odds. We only need 11% equity. Flush draw is going to get that. Let's see here. Let's hide these. So you can see flush draw has 23% equity versus that range. And that includes like having a queen and so forth. Gut shots are at 40% equity. You know, our gut shots are king 10, king jack, jack 10. I think that, oops, sorry. No, 10%. So maybe gut shots are kind of close to the break even point. Flush draws, no, we're ahead of the flush draws. It looks like middle pair we can call, you know, with the queen. You know, and why do we call the middle pair? Because that's all with our flush draws. Pocket pair below the top card like kings, we don't. What about top pair hands? Top pair is going to give us a lot of equity, and that top pair yeah, okay, so I think top pair flush draws, top pair plus and flush draws are definitely hands that we're going to probably call. I think we call with the flush draws. I think top pair calls, and then two pairs kind of our separation. So I kind of feel like we're going to be betting ace queen, but calling ace two, and then sets and straights. So what do? I believe I raised this hand. I did. I raised all in, and I think that's pretty good because pot size bet is like 80 something. I only had 71 one left. I think with this player, I don't think we can really bluff. So I think exploitative play is to bet two pair the ace queen plus ace queen sets and straights. I think top pair calls and flush draw calls, and I think that's our raising range because I think at this point, if he only has two pair, he's not going to fold it. Top pair probably just goes ahead and folds. So he does call. So let's see here. So this is my solid range, and this is now exploitative. I think we're getting away from any sort of GTO play because Villain's just not. He's not playing GTO. I don't think GTO really suggests that we're donking flops at his frequencies. So river card comes out, five of clubs. I mean, money's all in. I think if we had money left over and he leads into us, probably we'll be calling. But I think we did it. So he shows ace 10, which is kind of a little surprising because I didn't have it. I had two pair, but it looks like his top pair plus hands he was going to call. And I missed out on his top pair, so I didn't have ace 10 in his range because it was on the flop. I assumed he would have just checked those, but I think ace 10. Yes, if we have ace 10 in his range, he's probably still going to call. I mean, it's still there. So All right. So, big question I had was flop. Uh, is there ever a donk strategy for this player? Um, is there, um, and once he donks, should I be raising or should I be calling? Um, so I think it kind of comes down to what his GTO is. So I've already ran this. So set up the ranges. Oops. So I have, I'm in position. That's the range. So on this flop, I do have, there is a small donking range, but when you look at it, it's effectively, zero, no donks at all. King two hearts. I mean, why would you donk that? That's just entirely bluff. It's to mix things up. It's to protect twos, your trip twos. So as far as I'm concerned, I don't think he should be betting at all. But if he does bet, now you can see what my ranges are, and it does. I am raising with two pair, with ace queen, with ace two. I obviously don't have queen two in my range, but I'm raising trips. I'm raising two pair. Oh, I'm raising ace king, which is I think what we expected. I think I also said to raise ace jack as well, but I guess that's a point to remember that not to do that. Uh, just to call with the ace jack. So I think what we're gonna do is um, change this tree up and say that he leads out. We have to say that he always bets. Um, if he bets 100% of his range, how do we do this? Because that's what I want. I think he's going to be betting uh, very, very, very wide. But let's change this. Maybe this will work if we reduce the lead out size. But um, maybe it's better if we just say check and look at. I think most players check this range. Um, So most likely scenario will be check. And I think that's where we're going to go with this hand. Instead of looking at what do we do when he donks, it's so unusual. We know it's not GTO play. I think what we do is deviate from GTO to play exploitatively. So when we do exploitative play, we are going to be raising ace queen. We're going to be raising those ace twos. We're going to be raising those trips. Um, I don't know if we're betting our flush draws. We're betting a small percentage of our flush draws. We're betting a few more gut shots. Um, we're betting a few more gut shots, and we're betting like we're mixing up with some of our weak pair and so forth. So um, I think that's good to see. But let's say most likely players are going to be checking here. Let's analyze that. What most players will do. So I think most players will be checking here. And then it comes down to us. Do we see bet or do we check? And I kind of think it's interesting that we're betting about 50% of the time here. Um, we're betting a lot of hands. We're betting a lot of these middle card hands, and it looks like we are betting cards that don't really have any sort of draws. We're more likely to check these mid flush draws. We're obviously betting two pair plus. So based on the distribution, it looks like we are doing top pair plus most of them, minus ace three, ace four, ace five. So I think this has been a mistake on my part. I think I'm more likely to bet ace three, ace four, ace five, and ace six. I'm more likely to bet those than ace 10, ace 9, ace 8, ace 7, with the idea that with ace 3, ace 4, ace 5, ace 6, I'm betting to try to get some of the better cards to fold. Hopefully, maybe like get ace 7, ace 8 to fold, but those, I always understand that those might not fold. Maybe it takes two streets to get that fold. So I think that's number one. I think that's kind of interesting that I'm not going to be betting all of those. What am I doing with those? Which ones am I betting? So it looks like I am betting those aces when I have another club. and not really betting the non-clubs. Okay, so I have some sort of a club draw. I'm not betting pocket pair below top pair. Our middle pairs looks to be more of a mixed strategy. So yeah, middle pair here is looking like I'm betting the flush draw. So top pair plus, we cut her off someplace like mid aces. So let's say ace 9 is going to be our cutoff. And then I think our weak pairs, we're just betting. These are kind of as a bluff with backdoor Broadway draws. Backdoor Broadway draws. 5-6 has to be a bluff. You've got some flush draws. You've got a 2-card backdoor flush. Yeah, that's what it is. Okay. I think that's kind of interesting. What about these kings? What are we doing with king 2, king 3? Looks like we are basically betting the kings. And it looks like we are mostly betting these low kings, low suited kings. Obviously, we have some driven by the flush draws, but we are also betting. I guess the reason why we could bet these kings is because we're blocking like ace king, king queen, which I guess kind of makes a little bit of sense. So let's continue on. So let's say we bet, we see bet. And then he's going to call. So his raise looks like 2 pair, ace queen. Okay, looks like queens and 2s, definitely 2s, trip 2s, and then 2 pair. He's raising king 2, backdoor hearts with the bottom pair. Okay, raising some of these ace kings, but I think most players are going to call. So let's put a 7 of diamonds up there. So we bet and call. Then I think most players now are going to be checking. Now for the smaller size, looks like they're betting a lot. They're betting a lot of top pairs. They're betting a lot of second pairs. That's interesting for a very small size. Kings checks. So now let's say the player donks out, which is a possible player. What do we do? Looks like we raise all of our aces, ace kings. We're going to raise our 2 pair plus. Our top pairs that we're raising are ace king. It looks like we're raising our ace kings and then calling the rest. And ace 2 we are raising. Oh, that's 2 pair. It's 2 pair. Middle pairs are calling. Our weak pairs, so these are calling probably just to keep them honest because it's small, because it's so small. I bet a larger size we end up getting rid of them. Flush draws are a lot of calls. We're not really raising them, and then we're going to toss in some. Okay, let's let's modify this tree a little bit. Let's say he does not donk. Check raises, let's say 67% pot, so 2/3 pot. It's probably okay. We're not going to donk unless they've shown aggression previously. And then we are going to eliminate that because, again, most players don't lead again unless they've shown some aggression. So I think if he's bet, we're going to raise 62% of the pot, but I don't think he is. So we would be 50% pot on the turn. So if he leads into us, we could raise like a pot size bet, or we can call. And then if we bet ourselves, we're probably going to be betting 2/3, possibly. Size up just a little bit. Here we are. Okay, so then, yeah, our default bet, we'll say 75%. So we'll build our tree, and then let's run our solver. All right, we're done. Let's check this out. So villain checks. And now let's check out our C betting range. Our C betting range now is 53, or we C bet 53.6%. Again, it looks like we are more likely to check these lower aces and bet the mid aces. We are betting top pair plus most of our top pair. Looks like mixed strategy with these lower aces. We check kings. I think that's kind of interesting, and I think that's one with how I would play in. We check jacks, 10s, 9s, and 8s. I think that's if we're ahead, we're still ahead with those hands. What's the point? But if we're behind, it's going to be hard for us to catch up. So I think keeping it small and seeing what happens on the turn, that's pretty good. I think that's pretty good. Our weak pair hands, I think it's interesting that we are betting the weaker ones, but not so much the mid ones. I think the weaker ones are probably coming in to try to fold out some of the equity above us. So any of those mid cards, we want them out, so the turn doesn't kill our equity. We're betting, it looks like, most of our flush draws. Jack 9, 10 9, and 10 8. King 9. So maybe our gut shots. No, not all of our cut shots. Jack 9, 10 9, and 10 8 are all checks. Are mostly checks. Not sure why. Perhaps it's because we have some straight draws, and because we have the middle cards, it's more likely. It's less likely that our villain has those middle cards. So perhaps we're probably just building up a pot when we know that we are underdog. Also, we don't block like the second nut flush draws. We do have some extra draws though that we can pick up. So maybe if we don't want to bet and get blown off our hand when we have some of those cards. So okay, so let's say we do bet. And then he's raising two pair. Okay, he's raising ace king. He's raising trip queens, trip twos, but he is only calling aces. That's surprising. I think that's surprising. But he had to play that really strangely. So, all right. So we'll say he calls with most of his range, and then we have the 7 of diamonds. Now most players will check to the turn better. So now it's on us. What do we do? And it looks like we are betting again about 60%. Or we're betting a little more than 50%. We're betting 60%. We're betting two pair plus, definitely. We're betting top pairs. Most of our top pairs are the good kickers. So we're betting top pair good kickers, but we're checking top pair weaker kickers. All right. And then we're betting our threes. We're betting threes again. I think that's interesting. I guess now if he's called with a queen, now we want to bet and see if he could get him to fold those hands. 5 6. Why would we bet? These have to be for our bluffs. These have to be for bluffs. We're putting hands in our bluffing range. Kings we're betting. King 10 we're betting because of the gut shot. King Jack we're betting because of the gut shot. King 9's half and half. King 8's mixed. King 3. Those are bluffs. Interesting. So again, let's say we bet again because we did have. I think we are going to have a lot of hands that bet, and then he's calling 58%. It looks like his calling range is going to be a lot of flush draws. It's going to be a lot of top pair hands. So once he calls, I don't even know what our river was. Well, 5 of clubs. Now he leads. Ooh, I don't have him betting. Oh, yeah. Because he didn't show aggression. So now he checks. And now we're only betting. It's like 2 pair plus, not even all 2 pairs. Ace twos, we're not betting our ace twos, so that makes sense. Aces, we're not betting. That's surprising. Aces, we're not betting, but we're betting queens. We're betting twos. All right, cool. Hopefully you enjoyed this. Hopefully you learned something. I think for us, I think for this hand, it's surprising that these low aces aren't being bet, but then we are betting a lot of these kings. We're betting a lot of these low pairs, and we're also not betting these mid pairs. I think we're not betting the mid pairs. We're not betting the ace weak kickers. Or we're not c betting in this case. All right. Hopefully you like this. Look tomorrow for another one. It's a long video. Sorry.